This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we're making a buttercream scabiosa flower. These are beautiful, frilly, ruffly flowers that are pretty easy to make. So we hope you'll check it out and watch this video. It's broken down into steps so that you can rewatch or skip ahead as desired. So let's start mixing our colors. We've got some American or simple style buttercream in our bowl. We're gonna make two shades today, a purple and a kind of fun little green color. And we are gonna use just a few food colorings. We're gonna use some violet, sky blue, and finally, just a little bit of lemon yellow. And these are all liquid gel colors. We like them because they can give us nice bright tones if we want, but you can also use them for pastel and medium shades. And I've got just a little bit of each out here. And I'm gonna start with my purple. And I'm just gonna streak some of that in. And I wanna give the purple for this flower just a little bit of brightness and take it a little towards the blue. So I'm adding in just a little bit of that sky. We're gonna mix it around and check it out. We can adjust as needed. So we're a little more on the blue side right now. I like the undertone of it. It's got that little touch of brightness from that sky. We're just gonna bump up the purple so it reads more purple than blue. We want a nice kind of medium tone shade for this. We don't want it to be too dark. These flowers often are in the kind of pastel to medium tone range, and I feel like they always have a certain kind of luminescence to the petals. The petals are really thin, so it always looks like there's kind of light showing through them. It's a very beautiful effect. So I'm just going to keep adding purple until I get a nice shade that I like. It's getting there. There we go. Got a little pocket of purple color down there at the bottom. I think we're almost there. Got a nice kind of light periwinkle tone. Just gonna go a little more just to bump it up a bit because we want it to read a nice beautiful shade. And I think that's gonna be perfect. It's a beautiful kind of light to medium tone periwinkle. It's gonna look really lovely. So we'll put this aside and make our green. So for our second color, we're gonna make a green. We're gonna do some yellow in there and just a little touch of the sky. The sky is really strong, so it doesn't really need much. We just want to make a nice light green for the center of our flowers. And that sky and the lemon tend to give it a brightness, and I just want to dull it just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to take just a tiny bit of that purple, mix that in, just to kind of take some of the edge off that color. And that's doing a nice job of it. So just a little bit more and we should be good. And that just kind of tones down some of that electric brightness we get. And that's going to give us two beautiful shades that are going to work nicely together. You can see that green really pops out against that beautiful periwinkle purple that we made earlier. So we're going to be using 3 12-inch decorating bags for this flower. We have one with our periwinkle that has our 124K in it. So you can see that's one of those skinny Korean tips. It's got that really fine opening. This is going to give us these wavy, ruffly, really beautiful, natural looking petals. The second one with our periwinkle has the 81 tip in it. And you can see this is one of those U-shaped tips that you're going to use for making petals and things like chrysanthemums and You can even use them for things like dahlias and a variety of other flowers like marigolds, etc. And they make those nice cupped petals for you. And then finally, we have a number 3 tip, so just a plain round tip. You could even use a number 2, whatever you've got on hand, just something small and round, and that's gonna have our green in it for our little stamens in the center. So let's talk about the techniques that we're gonna use to create the different parts of our flowers. We are going to use the 124K to make 2 sizes of petal. One is going to be larger or longer and skinnier, and the other one is going to be shorter and fatter. But we're going to create them with the same basic motion. We're going to start with the fat end of the tip towards the center of the area we're working on. So whether that's a cake, cupcake, or flower nail, the fatter part is going to be towards the center. The skinny end is going to be out. The bag's going to be laying almost flat against the surface with that tip, and the back end is going to be out towards 3 o'clock. And we're going to start there and just travel out, and then we're going to let it ruffle. So really let it kind of do its thing, let it curl up and down, let it really kind of make those beautiful folds there that skinny tip will give you. And then for the second one, we're going to do a much smaller motion and try and go fatter with it. So these are going to be longer and skinnier. These are going to be shorter and fatter. So it's just 2 variations of the same motion. So just really kind of letting it do its thing there. And you can see those are going to give us those beautiful ruffly petals that have those lovely, lovely details on the end that you really just can't fake or plan. The frosting's just going to come out and wiggle and do its own thing, and they look beautiful. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our 81. So that's that tip that curves up. It's like a C shape or a U. And we're going to pull these great little curved petals with them. And we want to hold the bag either at a 45-degree angle or straight up and down, depends on exactly where we are and where we're working. But you want to let that frosting connect, build up and attach, and then pull. And you'll see that gives us a little base, makes them nice and sturdy. And then we can pull it in a nice curved motion. We can pull it straight up and down. We can really give those flowers some style. So it's a lot like what we do when we're making a chrysanthemum or another flower of that type. But you can see that gives you that nice little curved line to those little petals. They have that little cupped shape. And if you're still squeezing while you pull away, they should have a nice little tapered end on them. If you're getting really blunt ends, pull just a little slower, and that should kind of help elongate and soften that. And finally, we're going to do the same kind of motion with our stamens. We're just going to hold the bag straight up and down, squeeze, make a dot, allow it to connect, and we're going to pull up while we're still piping. And that's going to give us those long little spikes, and they'll stick up, flop over, and do lots of fun little things there in the middle and give us a nice little center to our flower. So these are the different techniques that we're going to use. And now let's talk about how we're going to put them together to actually build our blossoms. So let's talk about the techniques that we went over and how we're going to use those to build our blossom. So the first thing we're going to do is if we're on a flower nail, meaning if we're going to pipe these flowers and then transfer them to another surface, we want to pipe a flat disc the way we do to help join all the petals together and give it a nice secure base underneath. So we're just going to do a quick spin on the flower nail first, just to give us something to attach to and join everybody together and make sure we don't lose any petals when we're transferring. Then we're going to go around the edge, and we're going to make sure we leave a little bit of a gap in the center, and we're going to pipe those longer, skinnier petals. It's probably going to take about 6 to 7, and we're going to leave gaps in between them. And then we're going to go on those gaps and pipe those shorter, fatter petals. And this is also why we need that disc in the middle if we're going to be transferring it, because we want to be able to leave those gaps, leave those spaces, but still make a nice strong flower with a great structure that's going to be easy to move around and play with. Once we get all those outside petals done, we're going to take our bag, hold it straight up and down, give ourselves just a tiny little mound in the center, and that's going to give us a place to pipe those stamens on top. So we're going to pipe some of those little hairy spikes going straight up and down in the middle. And then we're going to finish it off by taking the 81 tip and going all the way around, So we'll start at the bottom of the little mound right next to the petals that we piped on the bottom, and we'll pull those little curved petals until we're kind of almost enclosing and overlapping those stamens in the center, so they're just kind of peeking out in the middle. And this is going to give us a wonderful, natural looking scabiosis flower. There are a lot of different types and varieties of these flowers, and they come in lots of colors. So once you got this down, try changing it up, using some different techniques, putting some different things in there, maybe doing some different stuff with the centers, and you can really make a wide variety of these flowers, and they look frilly and beautiful, and they're great for decorating cakes, especially in the summer. So let's get started. We're on our flower nail, so we're going to start with that ring of frosting. So just nice and flat, just spin nice and slow. We're just giving ourselves something to attach to help join everything together. And then we're going to start with the fat end of the tip kind of towards the outside of that ring. We're going to draw our longer, skinnier petals, making sure to go nice and slow. The slower you go, the more they will ruffle for you. So you see that big kind of high drama ruffle. And then we're going to go over just a little bit. So make sure to leave a gap before you do your next one. And these petals are nice and light. So you can see they're even extending out past my nail a little bit. So you can pipe slightly bigger flowers than the nail with these. So I just want to make sure I have room to do like 6 or 7 of these longer petals. I want to make sure the ends of them attach to that disc in the middle. If you're just going directly on a cake, obviously you don't need to do that. And this is one of those ones where you can definitely go directly on your cake. And let's just squeak in one last petal. So now that I've done those kind of longer, skinnier ones, I'm going to go in and do my fatter, shorter ones. And I want to make sure I really just start in between two. I don't have to pull out that much. I'm going to start a little closer to the center and just really let them kind of ruffle. And you can see they'll tuck down in between the gap of those two petals. So just really give the frosting time to come out and really do its thing for you. And you'll get lots of beautiful ruffles. And there we go, right? So we've gone all the way around. There's not really room for one more. I guess I could put one in there if I wanted to, but you don't even have to. The next thing we're going to do, because we've finished those, is just give ourselves a little bit of a buildup in the center. So I'm just holding the bag straight up and down and squeezing myself a little mound. That's going to help join all those petals together and give me something to pipe those stamens on top of. And that is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to grab that bag of green that I have. I've got a number 3 tip on it. You can grab, if you want them to be smaller and finer, a number 2 or a number 1. If you do it with a number 3 tip, they'll stick straight up just a little more. If you go with the 2 or 1, they'll kind of flop over a little more for you. So you can pick what you want them to do by changing the size. And once we've got that in there, we're going to go in with our 81. And to start with, we're going to be at kind of like the 45-degree angle. I'm just going to start in between 2 of those fat short petals and just pull at that nice 45-degree angle. So you can see I'm just kind of sliding along that angle. I'm squeezing as I'm pulling away, and that's giving me those nice tapered ends. And once you go all the way around, just keep going. Start in between 2, change the angle of the bag. As you go towards the center, start pulling it up, right? So every time I do a row, I go just a little closer to being straight up and down, and that'll allow them to kind of enclose and wrap over those stamens in the center. And you can even pull across for the end. And anywhere you need an extra petal, just go in and add them in. Feel free to really kind of get in there and let the frosting do their thing. But you can see that gives you a beautiful buttercream scabiosis. And you've got those lovely little stamens sticking out in the middle. So now that we've practiced on our flower nail, let's try one on a cupcake. Since we're going directly on the surface we're going to finish on, we don't need to do the ring in the center. We can just start piping those nice long petals. You do want to leave a little bit of a void in the center, just so you have room for your details on top. So start with just a little space there. And we're just going to go and put on those long petals, leaving a little bit of a gap in between each one, because our shorter, fatter petals are going to fill that space in. And I'm not too worried about what the ends of these petals look like, just because we're going to cover it all up. So if they look a little funny, a little jagged, whatever, don't worry about it. Just keep remembering that you're going to put stuff on top of them, and all those little funny ends will get covered up. So you can see you can go nice and roughly and really let the frosting do the work for you and make some beautiful details. So once we've got our long petals on, we're going to do our short ones. So just come back in between. Let it ruffle and make those nice, shorter, fatter, kind of almost rounder, more teardrop shape petals. And since they're fatter, I usually end up having to skip at least one of those spots. Otherwise, I have too many. And you can see that takes up most of that center area. And we're just going to go in and put in just a little bit of a mound for ourselves and do our stamens on top of that. So I'm just pulling some short little spikes with my number 3 tip all the way around till I like the way it looks. And then we're going to go in with our 81, start next to those short fat petals, sliding at a 45-degree angle and kind of up. Just kind of giving a little kick up at the end. Give your cupcake a little turn every time. And it'll probably take a few little rows. And each time I do one, I just change the angle of the back of the bag a little bit so it's closer to being straight up and down. And that will give you the look like those little center petals are kind of opening up for you. And my last row, I'm actually going to take it and flick almost across those stamens at the end, and that'll make them look like they're kind of enclosed. And then I just give it a little spin and a check, and if I need to, I'll just pop a petal in there anywhere, but they look beautiful. Looks lovely. I've got just a few little gaps. If you have something like a number 352 handy, you can stick a few cute little leaves in there, and you can say this is a really easy way to practice these flowers, and it covers up the surface of a cupcake really quickly and really easily. And it gives you a beautiful, frilly, lovely floral design. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecorating.school.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.